And we're back for the third and final installment of this edition of Jesus, what is wrong with me, Ted? The DMZ America podcast.
That's the one and only podcast that you should listen to at all times.
The only one you need.
All other podcasts.
It fulfills 100% of your podcast needs every day.
It does. And I'm Ted Rall for the whatever podcast this is. Oh, wait, that's right. DMZ America. Coming to you from the left.
Solitary confinement now turns out that New York is having to shell out a fuck ton. I think that's the technical term, a fuck ton of money to people that they stuck in solitary confinement. Ted, I can't believe this. They stuck them in solitary confinement as they awaited trial. Now it could be someone like, I was going to say someone like you or me, if we were going to go to trial and they weren't going to let us out. I don't want to be in the general population of prison because that just doesn't appeal to me at all.
Well, but you don't want solitary confinement either.
No, that's the problem, is that solitary confinement, the mental scars. We just finished in a segment where we talked about mental scars. This definitely leaves them. It definitely, and now, like I said, the city of New York is being sued because this was their general practice. And Ted and I want to kind of use this as a springboard to talk about the penal system in America generally and how fucked up it is.
We should talk about this settlement, though, right? New York City is paying $53 million, which sounds like a lot of money until you hear the details, right?
Give us the deets, man.
So the deets are that there were 4,400 detainees between 2018 and 2022. So they're each getting $1,000. That's I think that's right? Yeah, that's okay, right.
I still getting
a little bit over $1,000, which will allow them to eat 2 meals in Manhattan after they're released,
and that is 4 sessions with a analyst.
Not mine. That's 3 sessions with my analyst.
Okay. Well,
so they were wrongfully isolated and held in tiny cells. They called it the hole for up to 23 hours per day. So anyone who breaks a rule or whatever can end up like this. By the way, this is Rikers Island, which is just the lockup, the city lockup that's used while people are waiting for trial. Very few people are actually serving terms there. So people there are by definition not guilty of any crime. The vast majority of them are in there for minor parole violations or not being able to raise as little as $5 in bail.
Jesus,
it's it is just a ridiculous thing. Here's the New York Times quotes this guy Cesar Rivera. He was held for 4 fucking years awaiting trial on homicide charges.
Oh my God.
Which he was acquitted. The jail labeled him a problem child during his previous days, so he was wrongfully housed for 485 days in solitary confinement. He was given 1 bowl of cereal without milk every 24 hours.
Wait, what?
That's it? All he was fed. He's lucky to have survived. A lot of people die in these detention facilities. It happens all the fucking time. Scott, you hear about the guy who was eaten alive by bed bugs in Atlanta?
Yeah, we talked about this the last podcast.
Right. We did.
And that's what that's why I wanted to use this as a springboard to talk about not just these specific cases. 4 years in solitary confinement will make you literally crazy.
Well, first of all, he said that. He said, I don't like noise. I don't like arguing. This changed me in so many ways that I need therapy to cope. He said, no human should be able to punish another human being like that, no matter what they did. And he is right. By the way, the EU bans solitary confinement in its member nations, except in very extreme circumstances where someone would, for example, certainly harm a cellmate or something.
Yeah, and I thought the Geneva Convention bans it also. I thought as for a long term.
That I would have to check, but that's only, of course, applicable to prisoners of war,
right?
And detainees. But it's
not getting.
It's like, no, I mean, the thing is, it's unconscionable. Look, I looked this up, Scott. 1 out of 5 prisoners in the United States is in for an administrative citation In other words, a sub misdemeanor, something that does not, a crime less than a misdemeanor, something like jaywalking. And 1 out of 4 prisoners in the United States is in for violating parole. And some of these parole violations, it's not like they went on the lam and took off to Montana. I sat in court in New York, and there was a guy in a case that I observed where he was sentenced to parole in the Bronx. And he walked across a bridge, a pedestrian bridge from the Bronx to the Manhattan side, but did not actually step onto the soil of Manhattan. He was arrested for violating parole because the border between the Bronx and Manhattan is in the middle of the river.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
So for that, I mean, look, did he violate parole? Yes. Was it a minor technicality? Also, yes. Is it worth spending taxpayer money to send him to jail over this? No. What is it worth? A phone call from his probation officer saying, hey, pay attention, don't let that happen again.
Right.
But there's no common sense here.
No, there's no rationality. And the prison system in America now, first, we've mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it again because it's still the most jaw-dropping statistic among many that paint us, the United States, in a very bad light. The number 1 houser of the mentally ill in the United States is the prison system. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry, that's an outrage. 2, the privatization of the prison systems now mean that if it's for profit, they're going to starve the inmates. They're going to they're going to suffer from malnutrition. They're going to stuff it. Terrible medical care, if any at all. They're going to stuff them in.
If you get a cavity, they don't treat it in prison. If you get a cavity, they pull your tooth. That's the only dental care available. That's in any prison in the United States. They will pull your tooth. And which of course is bad for your health because, it opens you up to more infections and ironically increases the costs to the prison system.
You have prisons that were built for roughly 400 to 500 inmates that are now housing 1,900. That's not an exaggeration.
Rikers Island in New York, the New York Post of all places, conservative Murdoch-owned publication, did an amazing expose a couple of years ago where they showed that 26 inmates are now sleeping in a cell built for 1. They have to take turns sleeping on the ground because there's not enough room for all of them to lie down. So they go in, so they have to work it out among the prisoners. It's only gotten worse.
And it's an issue that nobody cares about. Here in Alabama, for instance, they are under court order to improve the system. It's been a court order for a decade now, and they still haven't done a fucking thing. They just now broke ground for what may be a bigger prison. Maybe.
I think it should be the law that if they can't fucking take care of you, you walk. I don't care if you're Charles Manson. If you're a ward of the state, they have complete control over you. They have a responsibility to provide you with good health care, including dental, feed you water, keep you safe, keep you hydrated, they have to take care of you. If they can't take care of you, it's honestly like if you can't take care of your dog, the authorities might come and take your dog away from you, and they should.
Yeah.
And so similarly, if the authorities can't take care of prisoners, then they shouldn't be allowed to have these prisoners under their authority.
But the attitude in state after state after state, Ted, is that they're prisoners, they're bad guys, they committed crime, throw them in the jail, throw them in the hole, throw away the key. That's the attitude, and they embrace that. And the politicians know this, left and right, by the way. Some politicians on the left will talk about this in a rational way.
Very few.
But they're loath to do it publicly because you're going to be painted as soft on crime.
True.
You have to ask yourself, what do you want the penal system in this country to do? And we don't have that discussion because you can't have a rational discussion. I'm looking at European countries and some Asian countries that are doing things differently and seeing if it has an effect, does it work? Because what's the number one thing you want? You don't want that prisoner to come back. You want this guy to be, right. He broke into someone's house to steal a TV because he was on fentanyl. Okay, so what do? You want to get him off fentanyl. You want to teach him how to have a job skill and a life skill so that when he gets out of prison, or her, they can perform in society and be, a positive
and pay taxes force. And be a productive member of society and not steal anyone's TVs anymore.
Correct. Correct. We don't do that. We don't approach this issue like this at all. And when you, and the number, I mean, another issue, which is so galling and jaw dropping, is the ratio of prisoners to guards. You talked about how many, 26 people to a cell designed for one. That number of guards to prisoners has grown in favor of the prisoners exponentially over the last 20 years, where the number is crazy. It's like 2,000, on average, 2,000 prisoners to every guard, 1,800 to 2,000. It's insanity. And
like at Rikers, they don't even have that. At Rikers Island, they're so short-staffed that basically the gangs are running the prison. And actually, by most accounts, the gangs are doing a better job than the city officials are. They're more efficient.
Well, I can see that, but I would also imagine that sodomy and assaults are probably up significantly in those places as well. Not conducive to, reform.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, from what I hear, like sex attacks in prison is kind of like a cliche, and it's kind of oversold. I mean, it's not like it doesn't happen, but it's not like hey, is that your soap on the ground? It's like, boy, it's like I think that doesn't happen that much. But assault is obviously constantly a problem. But really, the biggest abuse of prisoners is is by the state and the conditions that they're set up in. And we're also talking about, there's also the profit incentive of the prison system. A lot of prisons charge rent to the inmates. So you get out of jail and it's like, oh, by the way, you were in there for 120 days, Scott. You owe $65 a day times 120. You have no job and you can't get a job because you have to tell any potential employer that you're a felon or a convict, and then no one hires you. They charge people 50 cents per text message. They charge people for phone calls, exorbitant prices. Basically what you and I would pay for an international phone call or more, they're paying for a local call. They house them far away from their family members, their support network, so they don't have, they lose their families. These relationships deteriorate. Children end up with one or no parents. The bread earner is behind bars. I think the entire prison industrial complex has to be completely abolished. I don't think prison is necessary except in a tiny fraction of cases. And I think prison terms should be a lot shorter. I mean, people who are like, oh, 8 years, that's no big deal. Really? I wouldn't want to be in there for 8 days.
And before you start saying, oh, you guys are just soft on crime and you're soft on criminals and you don't care about the victims, on the contrary, what we're talking about here is a system that hopefully prevents further victims. Yes, they should be punished. Yes, they should pay a price for their crimes. Our take, what Ted is talking about, what I'm talking about, is that we want a system in place that actually reforms the individual and because they're going to be put back.
Everyone is redeemable. Everyone does something good. I mean, I was kind of joking the other day about, Elon Musk has been at war with NPR and Canadian Broadcasting and these other, and the BBC and other partly publicly owned or funded state media operations, because he labeled them like state-owned, state-controlled media or state-funded media, and they're getting off Twitter and stuff. And I was like saying, like NPR said, we're not government funded. We're only less than 1% government funded. And I was like, oh, so can you go to jail? Can you go to court and tell the judge, Your Honor, I only commit less than 1% of my time murdering people. The rest of the time, I'm a law-abiding citizen. So really, that's like a rounding error. Let's just forget the whole thing and prevent it. I mean, but it's kind of true that, as Sartre said, we are judged by our worst possible moment. The worst thing that you do is the way that you're assessed, with no consideration for the fact that, like, someone who stole that TV might have also been helpful and loving and supportive in all sorts of other contexts with their family or at work or in society in general. It's really not a good, it's extremely negative way to look at the world, and it's not really accurate.
Well, it's also, you touched on it a second ago, the post-incarceration of American prisoners is stupid. There are some halfway houses, but for the most part, you're just kind of dumped out and said, here's $50, enjoy.
Right. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. And that's again a terrible way to run a system where you're hoping to reform an individual, and just to say, okay, you're on your own. You know how to be good, right? Okay, bye.
Right. After you're, of course, suffering from PTSD. And I even think about like the sort of minor abuses, like for example, in jail, they don't ever turn the lights off. And I'm sorry, like you try sleeping with bright lights on in your room all night long while you're trying to sleep every single day. That is a form of torture. And that's one of the more minor things that they do to these guys. There's the crappy food, the caloric intake, like I was reading about people who've starved to death in usually local jails. In a lot of local jails, they don't provide enough caloric intake to keep people alive. And so like they will have like a light breakfast and maybe a sandwich for lunch and no dinner whatsoever. And if you want to eat dinner, you have to pay for it out of your commissary account. And if you don't have a commissary account, for whatever reason, you're poor, no, you don't have anyone on the outside who puts money into it. Sorry, sucks to be you. I mean, these are all, the abuses, it's atrocious. And basically, Scott, you were talking about it during our break, like basically no one cares.
No one cares. That's the thing is that, and so Ted and I are going to go off on this tangent here. Many of our listeners, and I don't mean you, but the other listeners are going to go, who gives a shit? Nobody. Who gives?
They're bad people.
Yeah.
And then of course I could say, well, actually most of them are just awaiting trial. So by definition, they are possible bad people. They are not convicted bad people.
They're good people until proven otherwise. And so this is a huge issue. It's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better because America doesn't do anything about anything until it gets to critical mass. And a
lot of people have to die.
Yeah, and who's going to die is the guards, because there's 3 of them for 50,000 guys.
Could be another Attica type thing.
Yeah, yeah. So on that happy note, Ted, if we're going to see your work before you go into the Huskow.
We should probably talk about the new show, right? Like, so, yeah. I'm now.
Oh, right. Oh, big. Oh, wait. Let me set the table. This is a DMZ America special report coming to you live from New York City. Ted Rall.
So yeah, I'm co-hosting a talk radio show on Sputnik Radio. So if you go to Sputnik News online and just hit the little listen thing, I'm on with Manila Chan. The show is called The Final Countdown with Manila Chan and Ted Rall.
It's the final countdown.
I wish we had those song rights. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern, 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time. And we talk about, basically political stuff and current events. And we bandy back and forth, and we have guests, and Scott will be one of them. And it's it's very exciting. We're in our first week. I just did the 3rd one this morning. I was going to say recorded it. It is also on Rumble, and you can find the archived shows on Rumble, and you can watch God Help You. Although I don't know the point of watching radio, but you can. People are watching the podcast.
Where can we watch you? I didn't know that.
Rumble.
Rumble? What is Rumble?
Rumble is a platform where you can watch podcasts and various radio shows. And
I didn't.
You're not as sensory.
Why did you not tell me? I could see you in
Manila.
In Manila doing your thing.
You could. Well, now you know. I'll send you the link. So it's so that's cool. I mean, people who are like, what the fuck? What's with Rall being on with the Russians? I will just say, Google a piece called "Why I Work for Sputnik" that I wrote maybe a year ago, and that sort of will tell you where I'm coming from. But anyway, that's that. I'm also on. You can get my cartoons at raw.com, whowhatwhy.org, sputniknews.com. And you can listen to Scott and I both on Center Clip, as Scott mentioned, which is a very cool micro podcasting, 30 seconds to 5 minutes highly recommended, getting really good. Go do it. So yeah, Scott, where can people find your cartoons?
Not nearly as interesting as Ted Rall. You can go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis. That's one word. Gocomics.com/Scott Stantis. You can also go to gocomics.com and go to Prickly City, my political comic strip. And you can hear me on Center Clip, which, like I said, it's doing some really smart people doing some really good work. So it's really very exciting and very frankly satisfying and flattering to be a part of it. So that's Center Clip. It's a free app. So go ahead and pick it up and get it for yourself. By the way, Ted, Sputnik, I tried to get the Sputnik app for my phone today.
Oh, you can't?
You cannot. You can. It's in, I think, Portuguese. I'm serious. Portuguese or Spanish. That's it.
Yeah, we live here in the land of the free, and
God.
therefore you are not allowed to consume all the content that you want. Yeah,
Tune in. You can't get it through Tune In, which is nuts.
After the Russo-Ukrainian war began a year ago, they were banned by the Apple Store and whatever the Google equivalent, the Android version of that is. Oh, Google Play Store, I think it's called, right?
Yes. And, it's so crazy. Tune in. You can get any other radio station in the world. You can get the Communist Party radio station out of China. You can get.
Well, they want to ban TikTok, man. I mean, they're fucking insane.
Yeah, they really are. So anyway, we worked, yeah. So I listened. I didn't know about Rumble. This is awesome. I'm going to be able to watch you. I can text you like snide comments.
Make fun of me.
You have something hanging from your nose, Ted.
You look like you've put on weight.
No, you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Scott. You too.
So I'll check it out. But you can also I listen to it through Sputnik Radio. The Sputnik Radio, Sputnik News.
SputnikNews.com.
Okay.
I think also it's like SputnikGlobal.com.
Oh,
I don't know. Just put in Sputnik Radio and you'll come to it. And then there's a place you just hit to listen live. But if you want to listen to, I understand that, you might want to just listen to the archived versions. And I think those exist on the Sputnik website too, but I'm going to have to double check that.
Okay. So on that note, we will see you next time. We're coming up on 100th episode. Hopefully by the 99th, Ted and I will have come up with some way to celebrate our 100th episode. But we'll come up with something jazzy.
We'll work on it. Yeah,
we will. Promise.
President Biden, call us.
Yes, cause operators are standing by.
They are.
Talk to you later.